Hello and welcome to a book review. A different kind of book review because this book is not something that I usually read. I usually avoid these types of books with like the plague because I'm just not in the mood for them. But I was gifted The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore, and I was gifted this by my best friend Jen. So I was gifted this at the beginning of September, and it is a beautiful edition. I mean, look at this thing. Its spread edges are just gorgeous. Look at these. They're pumpkins. It's covered in pumpkins. It's all golden and shiny for like autumn and fall and pumpkin. You can practically smell the pages of pumpkin spice. But it's not usually my kind of thing. It is a cozy romance, which if you've watched any of my other content, it usually is the other end of the spectrum to cozy romance. But we'll go for the blurb. When Jeannie's aunt gifts her the beloved Pumpkin Spice Cafe in the small town of Dream Harbour, Jeannie jumps at the chance for a fresh start away from her very dull desk job. Logan is a local farmer who avoids Dream Harbour's gossip at all costs. But Jeannie's arrival disrupts Logan's routine and he wants nothing to do with the irritatingly upbeat new girl, except that he finds himself inexplicably drawn to her. Will Jeannie's happy-go-lucky attitude win over the grumpy but gorgeous Logan, or has this city girl found the one person in town who won't fall for her charm or her pumpkin spice lattes? This is the Hallmark Channel in word form. Now, if you don't know what the Hallmark Channel is, it is the channel where the cozy romance films are broadcast. And I mean this in the most generous terms. I love watching the TikTok parodies of those films because they are ripe for parody. And I find it entertaining because the girl from the big city comes to the small town full of Christmas joy and names like Dream Harbour and Candy Cane Lane and, stuff like that. But I like reading it, but I really have to be in the mood. I really, really have to be in the mood. And one of the reasons why I picked this up is I wasn't having a very good weekend at the time a few weekends ago. And it was too intense. I just wanted to be cuddled, and in lieu of a man, I turned to a book. And this book is a cuddle in word form. It's a cuddle in a book. It's fun, it's easy to read, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting with this. So Jeannie is from the big city. She has a very intense corporate job, and it is only at the death of her boss at his desk, who goes undiscovered for 3 days because he's such a workaholic, that she really evaluates what she's doing with her life. Now, she is 28, 29. She said that she's been in this CEO secretary job for like 7 years, so she'd be like 21. Which, of course, isn't realistic, but you don't read this book for realism. You don't read this type of book for realism and logic. Just ignore all that and just be cuddled. So she ends up moving to Dream Harbour, and that's exactly what it is. It's in the harbour, it's a lovely little village, and it is autumn. So there's pumpkins everywhere. Her aunt owned this pumpkin spice coffee shop, Pumpkin Spice Cafe. She's gone on her jollies after retiring, leaves the cafe to Jeannie. And Jeannie is determined to make this cafe work, to prove to herself that she can do something for herself. She's anxious, of course. She's wary of what the newcomers, of what the townfolk will think of her, and she doesn't, because the cafe is such a staple of this town, she doesn't want it to go under on her watch because of her. She doesn't want to be run out of town because of it. And she is making friends, and there's quite a few people in here, so she makes friends with, I can't remember their names. I can't remember her best friends' names. And there's this like little book club that's, in everybody's business, but they're really, really nice. And everybody seems like a cardboard cutout of a caricature, but we know what we're getting. So Logan is the strapping young farmer who is at the farm just outside of town. His mother's dead. His father's dead. He lives with his grandparents on the farm. And the farm has a ridiculous name that I can't remember. I don't remember the name of the farm, but it's got one of those Hallmark movie names. But he's the farmer on this farm, and he was engaged to another girl the year before. He proposed marriage to her, and in the middle of the square, in the middle of the candy cane Christmas parade, she rejected him and ran away. Literally ran away from the spot and left him kneeling in front of everybody, in front of the whole town. So the town's kind of adopted him and is on the lookout for him, but he is, of course, he has PTSD from this incident, as you would, but he hasn't gone to get therapy, of course not. He internalizes all this angst that he has, and of course it spills over into his normal life, so he's turning into a recluse because he doesn't want to go into town to see all the pitying gazes and the whispering behind the hands, even if that's not even going on. But in his head, that it's going on. Their first meeting is right at the beginning, so there's no don't know who he is. It is right on page 8 that they meet for the first time. And their meeting isn't exactly a meet cute. Jeannie's been hearing all these noises in the alley behind the cafe for the past week since she's moved in. And she thinks, I think she's from Chicago or New York. It's usually Chicago, New York, somewhere like that. And she thinks there's somebody in the alley coming to rob her. So she goes down with a baseball bat, and it's actually just this really cute hot farmer trying to deliver little mini pumpkins because she's a pumpkin spice cafe. And she nearly takes his head off with a baseball bat thinking that he's going to rob him. So that is their meeting, and it turns out that he's not the one making noises in the alley. That is something else entirely. But in dealing with his angst and his anxiety and her wanting to prove herself, but then stepping back and thinking, I don't want to break his heart, I don't know what to do. The miscommunication is rife in this. And of course there's some business espionage in there as well, because you've got to have at least a little bit of mystery. Did I know what I was getting with this? Of course I knew what I was getting with this. That's why I read it when I was feeling blue, because I knew that it would perk me up, and sometimes you just need a bit of romance. Was it cringy? Oh, yes. Was it repetitive? Yes. Was it predictable? Completely predictable. Was I visualising it as a Hallmark movie in my head while reading it? Yeah. Did I love it? Yeah, I loved it. There were no rivalries. There's no love triangles. There's no death. It's just a nice story. It's just nice, something to curl up and read. It's dark and rainy outside. It is autumn. Everywhere looks a bit dingy. You could have a nice pumpkin spice latte or cup of coffee if you can't be asked to go outside, and just curl up with a blanket to read this, because it's a hug in a book, and it's fun, and it's fun to read. Now this is a whole series, so I don't remember what the next one is. Oh yeah, so the next one in the series is The Cinnamon Bun Book Store. All it takes is a little bit of sugar and spice. Will I read it? Probably next year. If I'm feeling blue, I will probably pick it up. But at the minute, I have no plans for it. But this was here when I needed it the most. And as a complete mood reader, it's probably why I loved it so much. But if you want a hug in a book, a cuddle between the pages, this is one for you.